Live from KTVN Reno, you're watching 2 News at 7.
Last night at this time, the city of Reno imposed a curfew. It was supposed to be the first of a series of planned nightly curfews, but now the city is changing course. Good evening, I'm Ryan Kennedy.
I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for keeping it here. Officials are now saying there will not be a curfew tonight. They say the statement issued last night came after law enforcement witnessed a crowd making its way toward the police department. Brian Hoffman has the latest on this.
Last night we had a curfew in effect. This morning the mayor has lifted that curfew. So what that means to all of our businesses and our community is that you can go about businesses as usual.
This pertains to all Reno residents, including those wishing to gather to protest. While the governor's order asks for gatherings no larger than 50, Soto says that if people gather to protest, as long as they remain peaceful, they will be allowed to gather.
If that number is eclipsed, which it might be, it might not be, but if it is and it's peaceful, then I don't anticipate taking any action on that.
Acting Police Chief Tom Robinson tells us that the curfew was only meant to disrupt violence and riots, and not to target law-abiding citizens.
We're developing these strategies, I'll call them, really as a way to mitigate the violence that we saw Saturday night. Our intent is not to target anybody who's engaged in lawful assembly, peaceful assembly, going to and from work, going to church, going on a jog.
Soto tells us that even though there are no plans to reenact a curfew, if things get dangerous, it can be put back in place.
I think anytime that there's a safety risk that comes into play, we certainly could re-implement curfew. In fact, we absolutely would if we thought there was a danger that presents itself to the community.
Soto and Acting Chief Robinson also spoke on adding a policy for Reno police officers, making it mandatory for officers to intervene if they witness excessive use of force by another officer.
We train that. We expect that of our officers. We verbalize that. Our supervisors verbalize it to the officers. And it's probably time that we actually put ink to paper and put it on our policies.
Covering the story, Brian Hoffman, 2 News.
Now, even though the curfew is lifted, a state of emergency is still in place for the city of Reno. Under Reno's municipal code, that allows the city to prohibit people from gathering in emergency areas, reestablishes a curfew, or even barricade roads.